Forbes, inside Ripple's $180 billion reinvention. We're going to get into what is Forbes saying about Ripple and XRP. We also have a clip here with Stephen McClurg from Canary Capital on Bloomberg talking about spot XRP ETFs. I'm going to go ahead and give you what I think is an updated timeline on all of this information. We also have some other XRP related news, some new information about the European Central Bank's movement on the digital euro. I found a connection with a company that they are using back to Ripple and XRP. I'll show you that information, of course, but let's start here. So happy you are with me, ladies and gentlemen. Readers might recall on March 2024 feature on zombie blockchains. That's how we christened a $50 billion crypto project sustained mostly by speculation rather than real usage. Ripple, with its XRP token and a unified dream of replacing global bank messaging service Swift, topped that list with a market value of $36 billion, but no annual fees of only $583,000. But lately, Ripple has been on a tear in private markets, and the company's share is now traded between 135 and 170, roughly 2 to 3x higher than at the start of the year, valuing it between 22 and $30 billion. For context, that's nearly on par with Circle, the stablecoin issuer Ripple wants to compete with and tried to acquire before it IPO'd in June, which sits around $34 billion. Circle's stock itself is up 352% from June 5th IPO. Ripple's token XRP, which does not grant an ownership stake in the company, is up 366% year over year with a market cap of nearly $150 billion. Ripple is now also part of a roaring digital asset treasury trend. Multiple firms have announced treasury strategies around XRP in the recent weeks, most notably Evernorth, which aims to raise more than $1 billion. The idea that companies would even consider storing a token created by a company that has long struggled for business transactions is a great vote of confidence. I do want to say here, most of the crypto industry is very undervalued, and you're not seeing a ton of use cases around, you have millions of tokens, realistically tens of thousands of real companies trying to build technology, but you only have a handful of use cases that are really going to matter. A lot of this technology is going to fail. And up to this point, because of lack of regulation and lack of clarity here in the United States, crypto wasn't taken very seriously by financial institutions. That has now recently changed with the Trump administration coming in and highlighting wanting to be the crypto capital of the world. And now everybody's saying, oh snap, we're going to have to really adopt this technology. We're going to have to update our systems and infrastructure from this legacy to this new digital world order to really be able to compete at scale. It's not all that surprising given the end of Ripple's 5-year legal battle with the Securities and Exchange Commission. The SEC sued Ripple in 2020, alleging that the firm sold XRP as an unregistered security. The resolution cost Ripple a $125 million fine, plus a streak of high-profile acquisitions, including Treasury for $1 billion, Hidden Road for $1.25 billion at Prime Broker, Rail Stablecoin Company for $200 million. In 2023 and 2024, Ripple also brought Custodians Medico for $250 million and Standard Custody for an undisclosed amount. While the XRP ledger may still lag behind more popular blockchain in terms of app usage or developer activity, it is clear that Ripple, the company, is a very different beast than it was just a few years ago. Sometimes people view change as bad. I think that's actually a sign of health and greatness, especially in emerging technology, says Joe Nagar, CEO and CIO of crypto hedge fund Feynman Point Asset Management, which is also an investor in Ripple. Ripple is showing thoughtfulness to the capital stack that they weren't able to fully demonstrate because of regulatory overhang, he adds. I think it's actually a poster child for what happens when you don't have a very, very difficult legislative and regulatory environment, and the thoughtfulness makes them different from all other protocols with large treasuries. Those that have foundations who lack real leadership and don't know who they are serving. If you ask Brad Garlinghouse, the answer is very clear to him. It's his shareholders. Nagar thinks that a better comp for Ripple today isn't Circle or another blockchain, but Coinbase. So the competitor is maybe not Circle, but actual Coinbase, which offers and operates custody and prime brokerage businesses and shares revenue with Circle. Austin King, CEO of crypto trading firm Nomina, also sold his first company to Ripple in 2019, goes even further. A lot of people in crypto chirp Ripple, but the reality is that it has incredible foresight. Their technology has been there for over a decade. Now their bet, I think, is to make synergies across all of these different businesses, bundling them up into one conglomerate for financial services. So the next big question for Ripple is whether it can turn its acquisitions into a unified system that actually drives value back to Ripple's core technology, the XRP ledger. And you heard from Brad Garlinghouse saying that everything Ripple does is around XRP, the token, and its ecosystem. All right, let's shift gears, see how Stephen McClurg drop in some information about spot ETFs. Let's jump into it.
The first question is the obvious one. How did you get these ETFs through at a time when the SEC and the federal government is shut down?
Well, Scarlett, thank you for having me. When the SEC approved the generic listing standards for cryptocurrencies back in September, that actually paved the way for what we're doing now. So those generic listing standards essentially open up the exchanges to be able to launch any cryptocurrency, single token cryptocurrency ETF that actually has a futures market in the US for more than 6 months. So we were able to rely upon that rule to file these ETFs with no delay clause.
All right, so let me give you some more information here too. Spot XRP ETF approvals are nearing a major milestone in the United States, with several critical filings and updates advancing quickly. Recently, 7 asset managers filed S1 amendments for spot XRP ETFs, and at least one issuer, Canary Funds, has targeted November 13th as potential launch date pending the final NASDAQ approvals of its A-8 filing. Now, if you start to see news on an A8-A filing, that is, we are there, ladies and gentlemen. That is, it's about to happen. These developments come as the SEC's new listing framework and the crypto ETFs have cleared regulatory obstacles. And so here's the status of spot ETF filings. At least 7 active S1 filings and amendments are under SEC review for major issuers like Bitwise, Franklin Templeton, 21 Shares, Wisdom Tree, Grayscale, Canary Capital, and CoinShares. Canary Funds and other issuers recently removed the delaying amendment from their S1 filings, which means the registration statements will become automatically effective in 20 days after the recent filings. Now, I thought this was interesting. I personally thought that they were going to time this after Swell. When I started to take in this information, I saw Litecoin and I saw HBAR going first. I thought to myself, well, maybe this is a strategic move to get all of those Swell announcements and then launch for institutional, which, you know, gives us more opportunity to pick up XRP at a lower price if we think these ETFs are going to bring, obviously, a higher price. NASDAQ approval of the A8-A filings is the final green light needed for shares to start trading. So if you start seeing news about that, ladies and gentlemen, it is on like Donkey Kong. All right, Mr. Man says, you know the wave is coming. Ripple and partners with Zero Hash and MasterCard. Ripple partners with Revolt and Zero Hash to expand RLUSD stablecoin access. This is early February 2025. MasterCard partners with Ripple following Genius Act and stablecoin Clarity. And then here is that. I also wanted to take a look to see what other connections we can find here. MasterCard's acquisition of Zero Hash. MasterCard is in advanced talks to acquire Zero Hash, a leading provider of stablecoin and crypto infrastructure, for $2 billion. This move is part of MasterCard's strategic push to become a dominant player in blockchain-based payments, especially around stablecoins, as they gain ground in global financial ecosystem. Zero Hash and Ripple partnership. Zero Hash recently expanded its stablecoin offerings by integrating Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin. This allows Zero Hash clients, including major fintechs and payment companies, to use RLUSD for payments, custody, and tokenization and settlement use cases on both the XRP Ledger and Ethereum networks. This partnership includes Revolt, which along with Zero Hash is helping Ripple broaden RLUSD adoption globally with its intent to compete with USDC and USDT and USDC for market share in regulated compliant stablecoins. So it does look like MasterCard is making moves here. We'll see how all of this goes. I'll bring you everything that you need to know on this channel. Dom Fishhead, I don't know what's going on. There's a lot of drama on X right now, guys. If you're not like around or if you're not involved in it, just stay away. It's toxic. And so can anyone honestly, so there was a lot of FUD and drama brought up recently by Scott Melker. I'm going to do a complete video on what's going on, but it was chaos yesterday. I just wanted to highlight and touch this. If we can, let's uplift the XRP ecosystem out of some of this. Like, I feel like we spend a lot of time saying my stuff is better than your stuff. Let's just go make it happen. Let's go out there, talk about the partnerships, talk about the good things happening on the ledger, talking about the good things happening in the community. When we're stuck doing all of this infighting, I don't think it's good for the space. I don't think it's good for anybody. The Euro area is progressing to the next phase of the digital euro project to ensure its technical readiness. If the digital euro legislation is adopted in 2026, a pilot could start in 2027. So here is information on the next phase. This dropped today, October 30th. All right, let's jump into this information and show you these connections. The European Central Bank has officially moved to the next phase of the digital euro project, focusing on technical readiness, market engagement, and legislative support for the possible CBDC. And then so they're talking about the companies that they have announced, and some of it they haven't out, right? Where the digital euro's underlying protocol and architecture haven't been revealed in full detail. The ECB has selected providers of 5 technology companies. These are the companies, and this is the solutions that they are providing. Now, I wanted to look up these 5 companies to see if there was any connections between Ripple and XRP, and here are those connections. There are significant connections between one of the companies. This is the company Giuseppe Devrient, G plus D. G plus D was a lead investor in Medico, the Swiss digital asset custody firm that Ripple acquired in 2023. After Ripple's acquisition, Medico became an integral part of Ripple's institutional custody offerings, expanding Ripple's reach into digital assets and tokenization. G plus D is also partnered with Ripple in a broader CBDC and digital payments infrastructure efforts. Both companies were founding members of MasterCard's CBDC partner program, highlighting their ongoing collaboration. Ripple's rapid acquisition strategy in the past 2 years, including Medico, G Treasury, and other infrastructure providers, has positioned it as a major player for institutional blockchain CBDC expansion. Several of these acquired firms and partners like G plus D are now embedded into the supply chain of the European payment solutions. While direct use of XRP and XRP Ledger of the digital euro is not confirmed, the close working relationship and integrated technical stack between Ripple and G&D increases the likelihood of Ripple influence architecture or service modules appearing in the European CBDC solution. So nothing is 100% confirmed, but there is this collaboration and partnership. I did find this company listed in the documents for the ECB right here. Right here is the actual confirmation of all of this. And just to show you that this is in fact the European Central Bank's website. So those collaborations and connections are real 100%. All right, let's go into this Larry Fink clip.
I would say the biggest question from central banks is what is the role of tokenization and digitization? How quickly should they think about digitizing their own currency? What does that mean for the role of the dollar? If every currency digitizes and we have, what does that mean for bank payments? What does that mean for the payment companies like MasterCard and Visa? All these are being questioned right now. I think we spend so much time talking about AI. We're not spending enough time talking about how quickly we're going to tokenize every financial asset and the opportunity we're going to have a digital wallet and moving ETFs and other things through a digital wallet. And I think that's going to happen worldwide very rapidly. And I think most countries are ill-prepared for that and underappreciate how technology is changing that. Not unlike how technology is changing AI and other things. It will be changing the technology around the plumbing of finance.
Countries are not ready for this rapid adoption of tokenized assets. Guys, this is what we are waiting for, right? If you're going from $30 billion or $50 billion in tokenized assets to hundreds of trillions of dollars very quickly, Larry Fink's words here, that is going to have some dramatic impact on your current holdings. So stay frosty, stay educated, stay prepared. We are entering the final phase of growth here for all of this. Once we get to this point, it's going to be too late, right? To pick stuff up at the 250, 260 mark. That is when we're heading for absolute utility. Now, I did want to highlight Ripple here, working with global nonprofits turned to Ripple payments and our USD to move money faster and drive real world impact. By leveraging Ripple payments and USD stablecoin to help improve speed, transparency, and impact of aid, delivery, and funding. It's great to see Ripple involved in this. I'm going to do some more information and updates about this. So if you want to follow the channel, make sure that you're doing so. But I appreciate your support. Thank you for being here. If you made it to the end, please let me know. I love you guys the best. Thank you. Peace.